Hi, everyone. Thanks for coming on a Tuesday. Damn. My name is David Brandon Geeting, and I'm a photographer based here in New York City. I wanted to talk a bit about what I've been making for the past 15 years and how I got to this point. My career has been filled with twists and turns. Throughout my time in the industry, I've relied more on my gut than my brain. I've been hired to shoot everything from Bernie Sanders for the cover of Time magazine, to still lifes of bar soap for Vogue, to a giant shoe sculpted out of sand on the beach for Bottega Veneta, to the invasive species of southern Florida for National Geographic, to Nike Kids campaigns, to fashion editorials for boutique British magazines like Buffalo Zine and Modern Matter. But the way I arrived there was a bit unconventional, or so it seemed in the beginning. I wasn't working on getting hired. I was working on my personal practice. The one thing that's remained constant throughout all of this is my approach to image making. I try to remain totally open to chance and possibility. Before I even knew there was a term for it, I was utilizing what is often referred to as beginner's mindset. The internet describes beginner's mindset as having an attitude of openness, eagerness, and lack of preconceptions when studying a subject, even when studying at an advanced level, just as a beginner in that subject would. For years, I was ashamed to admit that I never did any research. I would never mood board a shoot beforehand, or go to the library, or watch films for inspiration. I didn't even have a Pinterest account until this year. Somehow it feels more embarrassing to admit that I have one now. I just knew that I was good at responding to the world itself, at responding to a room or an object or a person's expression or the afternoon light on a discarded piece of fruit. I embraced a phrase that my teacher, Joe Maida, had taught us in his junior seminar class right here at SVA. And the phrase is, no surprise for the writer, no surprise for the reader, which is to say, if you aren't surprised while making something, if there's no light bulb moment, then you can't expect that moment of surprise to translate to the audience. And I still live by those words to this day. Throughout my time at SVA, I mostly walked around with a 35mm camera and shot photos of scenes I stumbled upon out in the world. I was always interested in things that looked set up or uncanny or too good or too bad to be true. I remember senior year bringing in work to class one day, and while my thesis teacher was looking at my photo of a crumpled leaf on top of a golden banister, he said to me, "I think you're actually interested in still life." I had never really experimented with setting up my own images, and I didn't know much about still life photography. Instead of researching still life photographers or even still life painting, I thought to myself, why don't I use the same sorts of mundane and household objects I'm finding on the street, but set up my own scenes around the apartment instead? This was like 2010. 2011, I graduated. I tried to make a new still life around my house every single day as a creative challenge, immediately posting them to Tumblr afterwards. 3 years of those household experiments eventually led to my first book, Infinite Power. And here are some of those photographs dating back to the early 2010s. It's a lighter and a statue with white bread. Some blinds. Thanks, bro. 2 lamps intertwined. I don't have to describe all these, but it's like a fucked up glove and power strips. Yeah, this is what the book looked like. It came in a screen-printed plastic bag because I thought it was sort of related to the throwaway content inside, like sort of trying to make something nice out of plastic. Some spreads from the book. From this work, I landed my first few commissions. I was flown to South Carolina to photograph the inside of a 3D printer factory for Bloomberg Business Week. Shout out Emily Keegan. Yeah. She used to work there. Whatever. She liked my Tumblr, and she like called me, and it was my birthday. It was very strange. And I like worked at a juice bar. I was like, what do you mean you want me to go to South Carolina? Yeah, this was that shoot. This was my first shoot ever, 2012. That's 12 years ago. That's crazy. That's my face. They like made a 3D model of my head when I was at the factory. Whatever. I would also begin to shoot still lifes of couture accessories for nylon each month. I remember I went to Barnes & Noble and like looked at the back of a bunch of magazines and wrote down people's names. And then, like Googled, or not even Googled, just like typed in to Gmail like different combos of first and last names until I got emails that didn't bounce back, you know? Is there a better way to do that now? Is there still, you go to somebody's LinkedIn, you can't even find their email address. That's crazy. Anyway, so nylon worked out and the guy emailed me back, and then they didn't pay me ever, but that was fine because I was able to sort of like build this stuff for my portfolio. I shot a few events for Vice magazine around that time. This was the LA Art Book Fair in 2014. It looks very 2014. I remember Axe Body Spray saw my Tumblr and like wanted to work with me, which was so funny to me at the time because I was thinking about how I was just kind of screwing around in my apartment with like trash and kitchen utensils, and everything seemed a bit random. And everyone seemed to have like a different idea of what my work was and what to hire me for. And yeah, up until that point, I was working part-time at a juice bar and trying to figure out how to pay off my student loan debt. So I was open to anything anyone wanted me to shoot. But yeah, eventually I quit my job and decided to embrace all of these opportunities. And while I continued to shoot commissions, I was still making personal work to keep me sane. This was my second sort of bigger personal project. It's called Amusement Park. Aesthetically pretty similar to the first, but the concept was a bit more considered. I remember showing an early edit of the work to a colleague of mine, and they said, your work reminds me of an amusement park. And it was kind of lazy, but I thought it would be a good title for the book. So I took it and ran with it. And I decided to explore some of the street photography aspects from my time at school and thought it would be funny if I actually went to an amusement park on Long Island to document some scenery over there to mix in. This is like some of that stuff. I also decided to add some portraits into the mix, as my goal was never to just be a still life photographer, but to be able to bridge genres and make everything work under the same umbrella. For me, it's more of like a mindset thing than a genre thing. I like how it feels when disparate images come together and speak to one another. The chaotic still lifes mixed with the photos from the actual amusement park, mixed with the studio portraiture, would eventually lead to my next book, Amusement Park. This is what it looked like, or still does look like. Braulio, you guys know Braulio? Yeah, thank you, man. Here are some spreads from it. This was like the balloon sword. The background picture was from an ad job. Basically, at the end of the job, I was like, can I take all this stuff home? Like, I was like, you know, in my early 20s or something, and just like loaded all the backdrops into a van and then repurposed them over the years. I think I still have some, but, you know, nothing's trash. Also, the balloon, I like posted an ad on Craigslist, and some lady that does balloon animals for birthday parties like hit me up and was like, yeah, sure, I can come by your studio. She made a bunch of stuff. Clean apple, Play-Doh on a 1960s cookbook. Pizza. After the release of that book, I had my first solo exhibition at Janet Borden, which is a photo gallery that's been in New York since 1988, and who also shows some of my favorite artists like Martin Parr, Jan Groover, and Neil Winokur. Here are some install photos. My third book was a bit of a departure from the first two. It was shot entirely on the street, absent from the studio. Basically, whenever I would hit a wall, I would walk around my neighborhood of Greenpoint at the time with my camera, searching for inspiration, searching for interesting compositions to sort of pull out of thin air. It was originally meant to be a kind of diary of images that I would look back on to use for ideas when I was in the studio. However, once I had accumulated enough of these images, it became clear that these pictures were not just inspiration, they were the actual thing. 3 years of taking walks in my neighborhood then resulted in the book Neighborhood Stroll, which was again followed by a solo exhibition at the same gallery. This is what the book looks like. I wanted the thing on the front to sort of look like a grocery store, the thing that no one wants in their door, but they always get one. Circular. And it unfolds into a poster. But also, I like that people don't know if they're supposed to throw it out or not. Here's some spreads. Happy little cone. Or maybe angry. Lasagna. I like the one on the left. It looks like a painting or something. Here's some photos from the show. This show was in January 2020. When COVID hit in March of 2020, I had been so bogged down with work that winter that I welcomed the long break. My partner, Lena, and I were living together in our railroad apartment, surrounded by trinkets, antiques, old books, furniture, a refrigerator full of odds and ends, and closets full of our clothes. It seemed like the perfect opportunity to return to my roots and make images around the house again, sort of like I was doing right when I graduated. I had wanted to collab with Lena for a while because she's also an artist who works at the intersection of sculpture, installation, and fashion, though our busy schedules never allowed us to. But this was finally the perfect opportunity. Similarly to when I was working on my first book, we gave ourselves the assignment of making pictures almost every day. Sometimes we would even put ourselves in the work. That's me looking like Jesus or something. That's Lena as a chef. We were doing what we could with what we had and trying to make some magic in the process. The final result was a book called A Spell Too Far, followed by an exhibition at Commune in Tokyo. This is what the book looks like. Furniture. You guys like furniture? Here's some spreads. That's my leg. Ducks. Bows. We got it all. Here's some install shots. Cool. I'm almost done. It was important for me to talk to you about my personal work because that is the reason that I do all of this. I think most people in the industry know me for my commercial and editorial work, and I feel very lucky to shoot that stuff for a living. But the number one reason I do it is to fund my personal work. Sorry to any clients in the audience. That's what keeps me going and gives me purpose. That said, I'd love to show you some of my commissions over the years because they were a blast to make. They were a learning experience in their own way, and they all relate back to my personal practice in the end. Because I've built such a strong foundation to base my commission work off of, I now get hired to do me, and that feeling is extremely rewarding. Here are some things I've been hired to make over the past decade. It's for British GQ, Still Life, fashion accessories, bacon, egg, and cheese, a watch with some mushrooms, Vivienne Westwood bag. This is for Glossier. This is more recent. Capsule. It's like an Italian design magazine by the people that do Kaleidoscope. This is the first fashion editorial shot with someone wearing the Apple Vision Pro. John Malkovich. John Malkovich eating an apple. Crocs. Post Malone Crocs, actually. Benefit. Makeup. San Francisco. Stand up, you know. Dev Hines. Bernie Sanders. And a cool dog. Caroline Polachek. This wasn't a commission, but I didn't know where else to put it. Jins, it's like Japanese eyewear. My friend Pat's band called Sand Art. Lena helped me with these too. Thank you, wherever you are. There she is. Here's the shoe. Away luggage. They're like, can you make it messy? Apartamento, Catherine Bernhardt. She's a painter. Her house is insane. It's her house. Pikachu. Fashion editorial for Modern Matter. The cornflakes box is so fucking good. Look at that thing. Just that alone. It's like the best graphic design I've ever seen. Nike kids. John Mulaney. He looks better now, right? He's got his hair's all nice and shit. They stuck me with him back when he looked like this. Guy can't even drink a glass of water. Look at that. Just kidding. This is my comedy hour. Sorry, guys. I'm almost done. Bags on the street for New York Magazine. You know, you give the guy at the pretzel stand like $5 and he's like, hell yeah. Or maybe probably more. It was probably like 20. Anyway, that's the end. Thank you for sitting through this. Thank you.